Good morning, everybody. Good morning, good morning, good morning. My name is Don Daniel, founder of P.I.L.L Method International, a better way to eliminate debt. And today we're going to be talking about something that is on my mind anyway, that what we talk about in the P.I.L.L method and interest cancellation is not talked about anywhere else. So I get significant pushback. And just this past weekend on Clubhouse, there were two gentlemen that came. I'm talking about they were trying to drag me and the P.I.L.L method because they're saying it does not work. We don't need what you're talking about. And so and this is my offer to anybody who does this. Let's go on a Zoom. We will record the Zoom, and then you can have the recording to do with what you want. No one ever takes me up on that. They would much rather make their statements and not offer you any proof. So, if you've been in my room before, you know that we offer the numbers as proof. People lie, but numbers don't lie. So what we're talking about is not just how to pay off debt. We're talking about debt has a cost, ladies and gentlemen, and there is a way to mitigate cost. And so we want to talk about that today. So if you have any questions, we're going to get into this a little deep. People are trying to, for whatever reason, they may have the best intentions. But one person even said that if you engage with me or the P.I.L.L method, that you are a sucker. Well, I'm going to show you some information right now. It's not about me, ladies and gentlemen. It's about you. It's about you getting the right information and why people stick to hanging on to the wrong information. So if you're ready to hear the truth today, the whole truth and nothing but the truth, we're going to go ahead and get started with everything today. So I need you all to buckle in. I need you all to get pen and paper, pencil and paper. I need you to take notes. I need you to watch this over and over again and share it with others. They tried to ridicule me, but AI shut them up. Let's go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are here and we're live on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Clubhouse this morning. And I have with me in Clubhouse, I got Ken, I got Mark, I got Credit Goddess. Credit Goddess, how are you this morning?
I'm doing wonderful, Don. How are you?
I am doing extremely well this morning, even though we had storms in the area and we got started 1 hour late. But
are you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm okay. It's just that the internet got knocked out.
What kind of storm?
Well, no, we had tornadoes here in Huntsville.
Ooh.
Yeah, so check it out on the news. I haven't even seen what type of damage there was in the area because my TV now is streamed. So without internet, I can't even see TV anymore. I can't even see TV. So I had to come to the office and prepare my show early this morning to get everything ready, for this particular podcast. And because I couldn't do it at home. So that's why we're starting late.
Well, I'm glad you're safe.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And what's been up with you lately?
Oh, it's been up. It's been up. It's a lot. There's a lot going on. I'm just getting, I don't know. I really don't know what's going on in the credit industry, but it seems like it's just dwindling down to just quite a few companies that are hosting this. I guess because everyone is going AI.
Okay.
But there's still some people that want, the service done for them. So I'm just getting bogged down with phone calls off of Google.
Wow.
I'm on page 1 of Google.
Okay.
So calls are just coming in. So it's up. It's up.
Listen, that is great. That is great. Ken, how are you doing this morning, sir?
Hey, I'm blessed by the best. I won't complain. I can't complain. It ain't gonna do me no good.
All right, brother. It's good to see you in here. Glad to have you here on Clubhouse, the audio app, folks. That's why you can't see them, because they're on an audio app called Clubhouse. And I have Mark in the house this morning. Mark, how are you this morning?
Ken, welcome. I'm listening in from Southern California. I'm digging myself out of sunshine here. I apologize for your internet issues, but I'm happy to listen and participate, and nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, sir. And I promise I won't get jealous because you're in sunny California.
It's a little cold today. I think it'll be in the 90s.
Oh, see, you're messing with me.
Yep.
You're messing with me, Mark. Mark, what is it? Let me see here. I haven't meeting you for the first time. What is it that you do, sir? Oh, maybe you can't hear me.
I was having problems with my mic.
Okay.
I've been on Clubhouse since COVID. I'm actually the CFO of two companies. One's called EasyOZ, and the second one is brand new, which is called the OZ Exchange. We help people to understand the capital raising process, and we help startups and real estate people. But I'm not here to promote me. I'm just here to listen and participate, and I love your guys' energies, and I think that this is an amazing room. So I'm just here to sort of listen.
I appreciate you being here today. So thank you very much, because what we do here, folks, what this particular show does is teach people what's really going on with amortized loans. We have not been taught since 1936 what's going on with amortized loans. But I want to start out today. I want to start out with a story, and I'm actually going to share the link to this story for you. Okay. And this guy, his name is Barry Marshall. All right. And I'm going to ask some questions right now, and I need you to put it in the chat. All right. Tell me what your belief is. All right. Barry Marshall is a doctor from Australia. And I want to ask you all something. What do you think is the major cause for ulcers today? What do you think is the major cause for ulcers? Put it in the chat, or, come on stage and talk to me. That question is open to everybody on the stage and everybody in the audience. What do you think is the major cause for ulcers? All right. Liz M says stress. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Anybody else? We got stress. How about anybody on the stage? What do you guys think? Major cause for ulcers.
You said for ulcers?
Ulcers, yes.
Eating habits?
Okay. Eating habits. Okay. All right. Mark says lack of options. Okay. I don't know if he wants to, fill us in on what that means.
I mean, I think that people don't think that have the ability to do anything. They don't know that there's options for their scenarios, and they just think that they're stuck in where they're at.
Okay. All right. So listen, folks, we're going to talk about today. I'm going to put this on the screen, and I'm going to send you out a link. All right. Spicy foods. Okay. I hear you. I hear you. All right. But this is a story you all need to read. All right. So I'm going to add this to the screen. All right. It's Barry J. Marshall. This is his biography. He is a Nobel Prize winning. All right. He won the Nobel Prize in 2005 about a particular discovery, and he's from Perth, Australia. I'm going to put the link to this article in the chat so you guys can read it on your own. All right, so let's add this to the chat. Okay, and Elizabeth says continual stress. Okay, all right, there we go. There we have it. Okay, so what we're talking about, folks, is, and for everybody online, let me put this on here for you too. You need to read this. Paste it here. There we go. Now you have a link to the article as well. And you may have to, copy and paste it because it may not be clickable. All right. There you have it. Okay. This is Barry J. Marshall. And in the late 70s and early 80s, he discovered that ulcers are caused by a bacteria. A bacteria, not stress. Now, back then, because ulcers were thought to be caused by stress, then the way to deal with it was surgery. But after surgery, to repair the ulcer, which is a deterioration of the lining of the stomach, which protects the stomach from the acid in the stomach. But when that lining is disrupted, then the acid gets to the stomach and causes severe pain. And if gone untreated, can cause death. So here's what we're talking about. Barry says it's not stress. Dr. Barry says it's not stress. It's a bacteria called Helicobacter pylori, and for short, H. pylori. All right. So when he discovered that, the whole medical community said, "You're crazy. This can't be." And I'm talking about worldwide. Every time he tried to get published, every time he tried to speak on the subject, he got shouted down. Nobody, and I mean nobody, believed him. Now, if you're thinking, so why would you think that the whole entire medical community disagreed with Barry? Why do you think that? Anybody? Put it in the chat. Come up on stage. I'd love to talk to you. I see educators in here. All right, come on up. Why do you think people disagreed with that? I mean, you've got stomach acid and you've got a bacteria. What do you think was happening in the minds of the medical community? They were saying it is impossible for bacteria to live in stomach acid. Doesn't that seem logical to you? Does it seem logical to you that it's impossible for bacteria to live in stomach acid? All right. It seems logical to me, but everybody would not look at the evidence. No one looked at can you imagine somebody who is a doctor? Now, part of the reason could be because he's in the outback of Australia, and maybe somebody was looking down on him and says, somehow you messed up and introduced some type of bacteria into your samples. It didn't come from the stomach. It came from an outside source that you introduced into your samples. That was the problem. But nobody would debate him on it. Nobody would offer any proof of what they were saying. He was willing to offer proof. What does Elizabeth say? It says they do not want a logical solution. They do not want to stop surgery revenue. Look at that. I'm telling you that, listen, when you really get down to it, Elizabeth, they don't want to stop surgery revenue, because here's what Barry Marshall was saying. Let me put this back on the screen so that you guys can see it. You need to read it, do your research on it. Okay. Share the screen here. All right. There we go. Let me put this back. There we go. Add that to the screen. All right. So Barry Marshall, all right, figured out that it was a bacteria and all you needed was antibiotics to kill the bacteria and you were cured. That was it. That is much, much cheaper than surgery. Wouldn't you say, Elizabeth? Okay, much cheaper. But here's the thing. He got so much pushback. I need you to read this whole thing, all right? He got so much pushback on this, and nobody listened. In fact, it was causing financial trouble for him because of getting jobs. I mean, he would not let this thing go because it was groundbreaking. People needed to know. People were suffering, going into surgery, getting the ulcer repaired, only to have the ulcer reappear. Because they were treating symptoms, they were not treating the cause. And they didn't know the cause. He was trying to tell them, but nobody would listen. So what did he do? He mixed up a batch of H. pylori, drank it himself, gave himself an ulcer, documented everything, and then cured it himself with, well, I guess it's the forerunner to Pepto-Bismol. So he took an antibiotic and eliminated his ulcer. Now he discovered this in the early 80s, late 70s. He discovered all of this. After he did this to himself, he finally won the Nobel Prize in 2005. Can you imagine? It took that long to give this man recognition. Started in the 80s, but he did not give up. And we're treating ulcers with antibiotics today because of this man not giving up. So here's what I need to share with you all today. There are those, even here on Clubhouse, who have tried to help people disregard the fact that they can cancel interest on loans. In fact, even Jonathan Bing, when he first heard about it, I mean, he is the one who started this room here. Jonathan Bing, this is the mortgage syndicate, started this back during COVID time. And he was of the same opinion. It cannot be done until we sat down. And he traveled to Atlanta. I traveled to Atlanta. I knew he was going to be there. And I was able to show him the numbers, why interest cancellation actually works. And he finally came around and said, you know, I see what you're talking about now. You're exactly right. In fact, he came on Clubhouse and apologized publicly. That was significant. And now he's asking me to take over Wednesdays to share this information with you. Let me tell you something, folks. When it comes to amortized loans, we are stuck in a way of thinking that keeps us in debt longer, not because of our debt, because of the cost of managing debt. So let me help you understand what's really going on. While we're focusing on interest rate, while we're focusing on the amount of debt that we have, the bank is only interested in making money. They're making money. because that's what interest is. Interest is nothing more than rent on the money you borrow. The longer you rent it, the more interest you'll pay. And the more interest you pay, the longer you are in debt. Okay, so I need everybody listen, come up to the stage. We need everybody to participate in this. And if you are watching us online, if you are watching us on YouTube or Facebook, and you want to come into the studio and ask questions, I can provide you a link so that you can come in and talk to us live if you so choose. So I am going to go ahead and put that link, that invitation there. Let's see here. Invite a guest. Here is that link. Take the link, ladies and gentlemen. If you're watching us on Facebook or YouTube, take this link and you can come into our show and ask questions. Okay, there we go. Let's paste it in there. There we have it. Okay, and so we're putting that link in there too. So if you want, come on in. You have to take that link and put it into Chrome, and then you can come into our show. So watch this, ladies and gentlemen. We need you to focus here today. The key to managing debt, or if you're talking about mortgages, the key to building equity in your house. Every time you make a payment, all right, some money goes to principal, which is the amount you owe, and some money goes to interest. And every time you make a payment, you are creating potential equity, meaning the difference between how much your house is worth and how much you owe. That is called equity. So once you have paid off the house, whatever the house is worth, that's 100% equity once the house is paid off. Now, here is your overall goal. If you get a mortgage on your house, the idea is to gain equity, but keep the cost low. The bank's job is for you to pay through the nose for your equity. And because amortization is not taught at any level of financial education, okay? There are people who will argue for the status quo. And we're going to be going over what these things mean. And I see Carrie just came to the stage. Carrie, how are you? Carrie D, can you talk to us? Now, some people come to the stage because they're at work, and that's okay. And I understand that. Even if you're at work, folks, and you want to listen, come to the stage anyway, because as you come to the stage here in Clubhouse, guess what? More people will come in and find out what we're talking about. And if you're watching us on our podcast on YouTube, Facebook, or LinkedIn, please share this with others because they need to see it too. There are people out there, even famous people, who are telling you you don't need optimized interest cancellation. And one of them is Dave Ramsey. I mean, he is totally against this concept. And I've met some people here just this past weekend who are against it. And you'd be surprised. Credit Goddess?
Yep.
Okay. Was it Anthony? Anthony Edwards? Is that his last name? Anthony Edwards?
Yes.
Okay. And do you know there's another person. I'm trying to remember his name. Got Anthony Edwards, who is trying to drag me and the process, and Anaje Barnes. Do you know that name?
Yes.
Yeah, both of them. This last weekend.
No, not
Wow.
last weekend.
Yep.
They haven't gotten with the program
No,
yet. Oh man,
not at.
that's unfortunate.
I mean, it got bad. Okay. And here's what I'm offering anybody who has anything to, you can disagree with me all you want, but offer proof. I'm offering proof. Every time I try to offer proof, they said, "Oh, you're what you're doing now is you're promoting your program, you're selling your program, you're pitching your program." I said, "No, you asked me a question. I'm answering the question as to why what you're saying is not true."
I'm still baffled as to how in depth that you explain, and we even break down the numbers.
Yes.
That they're still fighting about this method. It's about saving interest costs. Like I don't understand.
Yeah. I don't get it either. But we went as far as saying that Onaji was saying, well, I use the biweekly program. And I said, well, the biweekly program will save you at most 7 years on a 30-year mortgage. All right. And then he says, well, everybody can use a biweekly program. People need discretionary income to use your program, but everybody can use a biweekly program. Do you know that biweekly programs use discretionary income?
Right.
To attack principal? And here's how a biweekly program works, ladies and gentlemen. When you cut your mortgage payment in half and you pay one payment on the first of the month and the next payment on the 15th of the month, do you know that the bank holds your money? When you make your first payment on the first, they hold your payment until you make the second payment on the 15th, and then they apply it.
That's true. That's true.
That's
true, because your payment is not complete until they receive the other half.
Exactly, because mortgages only accept full payments. Okay, so Anaji was saying that everybody can use a biweekly payment. Not everybody who has a mortgage can use the P.I.L.L method. So, so when he would make he made another remark that I disagreed with, that everybody on the planet does agree with. So, but when I disagree with it, then there was an attempt to shout me down to explain why I disagree with that statement. So when he said another statement that just said everybody can use a biweekly payment, we can cut your payment in half, pay once on the first, another one on the 15th, and every 6 months there is an extra week, so you would make another half payment around the 30th. Okay, so he says now everybody can do that, but what he failed to realize is this, ladies and gentlemen: every 6 months you have an extra payment. So I'm saying a biweekly payment does nothing for you 10 months out of the year. It only works for you 2 months out of the year when you have that extra payment, the 1st, the 15th, and the 30th. Now, when you're making a half payment, let's just say your payment is $2,000 a month. So you're making a $1,000 payment on the 1st and a $1,000 payment on the 15th. And then every 6 months, you make a third $1,000 payment around the 30th. But what he failed to realize is this, credit goddess: when you make that payment on the 30th, what happens on the 1st of the next month?
Another payment is due.
Another payment is due. You have a whole mortgage payment due on the 1st of the next month. So that third payment, half payment, isn't that discretionary income?
Yes.
Yes, it most certainly is. Can everybody then, is it feasible that everybody cannot do a biweekly payment because they can't use that third payment? They don't have the money to make that third payment and then turn around on the first of the month to make another payment.
Right.
Oh, so not everybody can do that. And here's why. It is not because they don't have enough money, ladies and gentlemen. It is because people aren't tracking their expenditures. If people would track their expenditures, so one of the arguments that people make against this is that, what if you don't have discretionary income? What if you don't have discretionary income? What if you don't have any extra money? Oh, let's talk about that for a minute. Critic Goddess, you've been doing what you're doing for a long time, right?
Yes, I have. Mm-hmm.
You help people with their money.
Yes.
Okay. So if somebody makes $5,000 a month, all right, and they have bills, do you know anybody who makes $5,000 a month and spends exactly to the penny $5,000 a month on their bills?
Yes.
All right. No, I'm just talking about just the bills. I'm not talking about
just the bill.
Just the bills.
Yes.
Okay. I've never seen it. I know people who keep spending. They spend beyond the bills.
That's true.
Okay. I don't know anybody that makes 5,000 and spends exactly 5,000 so they don't have any discretionary income. Here's what generally happens. They either would have money left over or they're spending more than they make. They go past the 5,000 or they're spending less than the 5,000. I have never seen it where they're spending exactly 5,000 out of their income. Never seen it.
Yeah, not exactly. No, there's always money left over.
Yep.
And they spend it.
And they spend it.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So here's what's going on, folks. I'm going to tell you a little story about this. I had a lady who who asked me exactly that same thing. What if I don't have discretionary income? What if I don't have anything left over? I said, so I asked some questions. Do you ever can you pay all of your bills with your income? The answer was yes. Do you ever have to use a credit card to pay your bills because you've run out of money? The answer was no. Have you ever had to take money out of your savings to pay your bills because you ran out of money? The answer again was no. That means she has discretionary income. Doesn't it, Credit Goddess?
Yes.
Yes, yes, yes. So I sent her a budget sheet. I need you to fill this out. How much you're making, write it down. How much you're paying on your bills, write it down. And then send it back to me. When she finally got it back, and it took a long time for her to get it back. When she finally got it back, folks, I'm saying, well, I'm glad you got it back, but why did it take you so long? She said, I had to do the budget sheet 3 different times. I said, why did you have to do it 3 different times? She said, because I kept coming up with, I have $2,000 left over every month, and I don't know where it goes. Credit Goddess, how many times have you run into something like that?
All the time.
All the time.
All the time.
All the time. So, ladies and gentlemen, the folks that we work with here at the P.I.L.L Method, we help them first to manage the budget. Okay? Nene says, great method. Thank you, Nene. She's watching us on Facebook. All right. All right. So she says this method is great. She loves the P.I.L.L Method. She is a homeowner. Okay. Nene, do you mind if I talk to the folks a little bit about you today? Tell me yes or no. All right. So she is a brand new homeowner. All right. And she has a job, a very good job, and she has a business. So, Creator Goddess, do you run into people who are similar? They have a job, they have a business, and they have a brand new home that they're buying. You run into that a lot, don't you?
Oh, all the time.
Okay. Do you run into anybody who has all of that and it's at and 26 years old?
No,
She's 26 years old.
no, not at 26.
Listen, she is killing it. Okay. And now she's using the pill method to manage that debt. And we're going to show her how she's going to be able to manage everything and save enough interest so that more of her money goes to principal. And we're going to get her out of debt in about 10 years or so. How about that? So here's what we need to do first. So folks, first of all, we need to establish that you do have discretionary income. We need you to understand next that you can live well while you're getting out of debt and stop this idea of, let me get this off the screen. Okay. I need you to read this story though, and stop the idea that you need to cut yourself short. You need to live like a pauper to manage your debt. You don't. You can live well on your current budget, on what you're making now, because the general idea and thinking is, I need more money to throw at the debt. So I need to either make more money or I need to cut my family way back so we can't live a great lifestyle to throw money at the debt. And by doing that, I can also save money for my retirement because too much of my money has to go to debt. Well, folks, when you optimize interest savings, and anytime you optimize anything, I need you to keep this in mind. Anything can be optimized with numbers. Anything that has numbers can be optimized. So when you optimize something, you want to put the least amount of effort into something to get maximum results. Does that make sense to you? All right. So when it comes to gas mileage, you want to use as little gas as possible to go as far as possible in your car. You want to get greater gas mileage. You want to get 30 miles to the gallon, 35 miles to the gallon, 40 miles to the gallon. If you have a hybrid, then look, they're getting 50 miles to the gallon. That is optimization using small energy reserves to get fantastic output. What we've been taught when it comes to mortgages is the exact opposite, or when it comes to other loans. Throw as much money at your debt as you can, and somehow that is regarded as efficiency. No. So let me ask you something, folks, and you tell me if this is the truth or not. If all of your debt was 0% interest, is there any financial benefit to paying the debt off early? Answer that question for me. Put it in chat. Come to the stage. Answer the question. If all of your debt was 0% interest, is there any benefit to paying the loan off early? Ladies and gentlemen, the answer is, and some of you are saying it, you're just not putting it, you're not just not putting it in the chat. The answer is no, there's no benefit. So why then does Dave Ramsey, Susie Orman, people on the internet, people in Clubhouse, why are they so focused on paying off the debt and how fast you pay off the debt, when we should be looking at the cause of long-term debt is the amount of interest that you pay? So let's put some examples on the screen right now to show you what is going on. Okay. And we're going to go over a lot of things today. All right. So I'm going to put this on the screen. Get rid of this. All right.
Don, as you set that up, I couldn't on mic when you and Goddess was talking about the two people, and we ain't gonna keep dragging names. But
Go ahead.
as an investor, ain't the point of you being an investor is to capitalize on the most income that you can?
Yes. Yes. But the income for an investor stops at one spot. I'm renting out the property and I have a mortgage payment. So the difference between what I rent and what I pay, that's called cash flow. They start and stop there.
But can't you extend your cash flow by saving other monies with that same income that's coming in?
Most definitely. But it's on it's saving on the interest side that does that.
But as a whole, it's saving on that investor's pockets. They're going to have more money once they look at it at the end of it all. I mean,
Well, but where did you learn that?
I learned it from Don.
Exactly.
I mean,
it's not being taught anywhere else. So if you have a class, if you go, if you take go on the internet, everybody's teaching one thing. All right. They're teaching one thing. Let me put an amortization schedule on here. Okay. So, all right, we're going to put this on here. All right, there we go. And I'm going to put this on the screen. Okay. One of the things that's talked about, all right, that Onaje talked about. So if you want to see what's going on, go to YouTube. All right. I put the link at the top of the page, but you can go to YouTube, and it would be good if you go on a separate device. Go on a separate device so you can see these numbers. Okay. And when you get to YouTube, search for P.I.L.L method, P-I-L-L method, M-E-T-H-O-D. And when you get there, then you'll be able to see these numbers. All right. And make sure you turn your volume down. If you're going on your computer or your laptop or your other phone or your tablet, make sure you turn the volume down on that secondary device. And we're going to use your phone here for your audio. All right. So I'm going to put in just a $200,000 mortgage. Okay. And one of the things that Onaje was talking about was this. I have I think he said a 2.1. Okay. I got a 2.1 interest rate. All right. And I can't remember, it said 2.1 or 2.5, but it was 2 point something. All right. So I'm going to go with the lower one, 2.1. He says, why would I do anything with this 2.1 interest rate? Number one, ladies and gentlemen, this 2.1 interest rate is not a 2.1 interest rate. This is why I was asking, can any one of you explain how a mortgage actually works? Can you explain how a mortgage actually works? So here's what I understand through study. I'm going to bring something up on the page for you guys, and you need to see this. Okay. This is one of the things that we talk about. I'm pasting in here a term, and it's a term that behavioral economists use, people who study the economy, but they're also psychologists. And what they're finding out is that we make irrational decisions when it comes to money, and banks are taking advantage of that. And here is one of the biases that they talk about. Okay. So let's take a look at this. It's called the illusion of explanatory depth. The illusion of explanatory depth. Look this up, look into it. Now, one of the things that they talk about, the illusion of explanatory depth, is explain. I need you to draw a picture and explain how a bicycle works, or explain how a toilet works. Now, Just because you see one every day and use it every day doesn't mean you can explain how it works. So when I asked, explain how a mortgage works, do you know they could not explain how a mortgage works? They told me what a mortgage was, but they couldn't explain how it works. So here is a $200,000 mortgage at 2.1. If you can't explain how it works, ladies and gentlemen, then how can you come up with a program or a strategy to defeat something when you don't know how the thing actually works? You're going to focus in on what we call heuristics or a rule of thumb. And I'm going to put that term up in just a minute. So here is the payment on this. It is $749.28. That's the payment. All right. So I'm going to change some stuff here so we can see things just a little bit better. All right. And we need to change this up. All right. Boom. I'm going to change that, and we're going to get rid of this so we can see it a little better. Okay, there we are. All right. $749.28. That's what he's looking at. And whatever he's renting a property for, maybe he's renting it for $1,200, $1,300. I don't know. But that's called cash flow. The difference between what you're paying for the mortgage and what you're renting it for. So he says, why would I do anything for it? Because it's a 2.1 interest rate. I'm here to tell you, folks, it may say 2.1, but it ain't 2.1. What? So every time I tried to say something like this, they tried to shout me down. It may say 2.1, but it ain't 2.1. Here's what it actually is. It's a 34% loan. They want 34% of what you borrowed in the form of interest. So if it's a $200,000 mortgage, and if you're just making minimum payments, here's what you're going to pay back in interest over 30 years, $69,740.80. So ladies and gentlemen, in the audience who's watching this online, you tell me, is $69,000, nearly $70,000, is this 2% of $200,000? Now, when we do the math, it comes out to 34.87%. If I can get this at a much lower interest cost, so we're not paying actually 34%, but we're paying 1 or 2% of what we borrowed in the form of interest, would we not be better off? Ken, is this what you were talking about? So not only can I make my cash flow on the front end, but I'm getting equity for a lot cheaper. So here's what I mean by this. I need you all to see this. Every single month, all right, even at 2.1, I make a payment, and here's how it breaks down. $399.28 goes to principal, $350 goes to interest out of my $749. Okay? Out of my $749. So if I'm paying out $749, but the entity that owns my mortgage is discounting my payment by $350. Here's my question to you. Does my $399.28 in potential equity, is it costing me $350 to get it? What do you think, Carrie? What do you think, Elizabeth? Based on this, is it costing me $350 even at 2.1% to get $399.28 worth of equity? Now, here's my next question. Even though it's a low interest rate, do I want to pay $350 out of my money just to get $399.28 worth of equity? Do I want to do that? Is that still too much to pay, even at 2.1%? You better believe that it is. I don't even want to pay that. So here is what I need all of you to see. If you're new to the room, go to YouTube and so that you can see these numbers. Okay. Don't let anybody, all right, Anthony Edwards or anybody else, he's trying to call people who try to understand this and take advantage of our program. Okay. He's trying to call them suckers because I'm teaching this. Okay. If they want to subscribe to this, he's calling them suckers.
But Don, if they was teaching this, would they also be called suckers if they was the ones teaching it?
I don't know, man. They're not teaching it because they think it's not necessary. If I've got a 2% interest rate, that takes care of everything. Because they're thinking 2% when they should be thinking 35%. It's a 35% mortgage. Let me show you what's really going on here. The first interest payment is $350. So I'm going to put a calculator on the screen. My first payment is $350. So I need you all to see, if my first payment is $350, we're going to put $350 here. My total payment is $749. So we divide 350 by, okay, we're going to divide it by $749 equals this, 46%. That's 47%. So when you make this payment, 47% of the payment is discounted. Okay. So 53% of your money goes to pay down the loan. Now, when you pay your mortgage, do you want only 53% of your money going to pay down the mortgage and the rest go to interest? You tell me, ladies and gentlemen, is that okay with you? Even at 2% on a $200,000 mortgage, only 50% of your money gets applied to the loan. How is that okay? Now, let's learn how you can make this okay without making any change in your budget, without making any change in the mortgage. You don't have to refinance, okay? You don't have to do any of that. All right. All right. So we're going to be talking about refinancing today. Okay. We're going to be changing. Okay. We're going to change the, I'm making some notes here. Change the term. And we want to talk about that as well, because that was also brought up. Okay. So I need you all to learn how to read this today. Here is how all of this works. And this is what I was trying to get them to see. Here's how the bank turns 2.1% into 34.87%. Once you understand this part, then you could do something about it. They take your 2.1%. All right, let me put my calculator back on the screen. They take your 2.1. Okay, let's put this on 2.1%. Push the percent key. All right, and divide it by 12. That's the number they use. 0.00175 every single month. They take, if you have a 2.1 interest rate, but here's what they're actually doing. They're dividing that number by 12, 0.00175, and then multiplying it by your unpaid balance. In this case, the first balance is $200,000. So we're going to multiply it by 200,000. Okay, that's $200,000. All right, and that equals, for the very first payment here, $350. $350, and then they subtract that from the payment, and then the rest of the money goes to principal. So here is what's happening. We think that when I make a payment, part of my money goes to principal and part of my money goes to interest. That's not exactly true. Here's what's really happening. When you closed on your mortgage, most likely within the first week or two, it was sold to an investor. And the investor, when you make your $749 payment, $749 payment, the investor gets the entire $749, all of it. So when they get all of that money, because of amortization, they get to discount your payment by, and if it's this mortgage, by 47%. They take 40% off the top for them, and you get the rest. That's how a mortgage works. And every single month you do this, you get a brand new mortgage. So when $399.28 is applied to principal, here's what you have left: $199,600.72. This is a brand new mortgage. So amortization does this to a loan. It takes one mortgage and turns it into 360 separate mortgages. Every time you make a payment, there's a new mortgage that emerges right here. That's it. Every single month. So that's why it's so doggone expensive. Every single month, you are charged 1/12 of the interest rate. So you don't get to use that money. The investor says, at the end of 1 year, let's take a look at the first year. Okay. If our payment is $749 and we multiply it by 12, $8,988. Okay. All right. Let me make sure. Oh, I forgot the 28 cents. I can't forget the 28 cents. Let me put that on there. All right. Let's clear this out. 749.28 times 12 comes to $8,991.36. So even if you're a real estate investor, Ken, okay, your tenant gave you enough money so that you can pay $8,991 towards this mortgage. Okay. And can't forget the 36 cents. So, but they gave you also enough money so that you can skim some off the top and make money on the deal. All right. So you're charging more than the $8,991. But if I'm told to focus here, all right, if I'm told to focus only on cash flow, I totally disregard how much money is being paid to the bank and how much of that is going to interest. So let me break this down. At the end of 1 year, out of $8,991.36, only this much counts for you. $48,37.74. Now, I need somebody here to tell me, is this okay? Do you want to have the money that your tenant gave you, $8,991.36 of it that you paid paid on the mortgage? Do you only want to benefit $4,800 worth? Can anybody say that this is okay? That I'm all right with that? That I don't care, that I don't want it to be any better than that. Does anybody agree with this? That they cut your mortgage payment practically in half, even at 2.1%? Please. Here's what you need to know. Now I'm going to teach you what interest cancellation is all about and why real estate investors don't want you to know this. I'm sorry, people who invest in mortgages, they don't want you to know the power of prepayment. Here's why. Let's go back to the first payment. Let's call it January. I'm making my January payment. It's right there. I've made it. Okay. $749 and change. All right. $749.28. I've made my payment. Okay. And they discounted it by $350. I paid my $399.28 towards principal, and now I'm left with $199,600.72. So if what I said is true, we can take 1/12 of the interest rate, okay, and then multiply it by $199,600.72. We should get $349.30 in interest here. So let's do it. So these are the things I was trying to point out that we need to see the numbers to understand, not just making statements that we've been hearing over the years and regurgitating them. And just because you say it louder, just because you say it longer, doesn't make it true, ladies and gentlemen. Don't let anybody browbeat you into paying these extra payments because they say you've got a low interest rate. You don't need to care about this. Okay. So we're going to take that 0.021. That is the decimal equivalent to 2.1%. We're going to divide it by 12, and we get the same 0.0017. We're going to multiply it by the $199,600.72. Okay, $199,600.72. And we get 349.301. Here it is. Exactly like I said. If you don't know how a mortgage works, if you don't know how they are discounting your payment, if you don't know how the bank is making money on this deal, how can you come up with a strategy not to pay this? This is why I'm getting ready to show you now. This is why real estate and people who invest in mortgage paper, they don't want you to know this. This is why. I made my January payment and I'm all done. The February principal payment is $399.98. So what you know to be true about mortgages, ladies and gentlemen, if you have an extra $399.98 sitting in a bank account somewhere, and if you wanted to, could you also apply the $399.98 to your mortgage in January as well? Could you do that if you wanted to, if you had it? The answer is yes, you can do that. So you made your regular payment in January. You looked at the principal. Now I'm just explaining mortgage mechanics. I'm not even talking about how the P.I.L.L method works yet. This is just plain old mortgage mechanics that should be taught at least by 8th grade. Okay. Because when I teach this to 8th graders, they get it. So that means tell me that we could all have learned this back in 8th grade, but it's not taught anywhere. This is not even taught. What I'm teaching you today is not even taught at the Wharton School of Business. It's not taught anywhere. Okay. So watch this. So we're going to take $399.98 and we're going to apply it to mortgage principal right away. If we do, they have to subtract that from the $199,600.72 in January. And now we have $199,200.74. That is our new balance. Okay. A mortgage amortization has to charge you interest on whatever balance the computer sees. Whatever that balance is, you can only get charged interest on that balance. It doesn't matter what they're looking for. Here's the interest column. They're looking for all these interest payments. It doesn't matter what they're looking for. What matters is how much of their money do you still have at the end of the month, and that's what they charge you on. So we would take the 199,000 if we have done it their way. We would take 0.021, divide it by 12 again. Take this, the 0.00175, and multiply it by this. This is going to be our new benchmark times $199,200.74 equals $348.60. So we drop down to here. What just happened? If I make my payment in January and I give them an extra $399.98, this is my new amount. They have to charge me interest on this. So it drops me down to here, which would be what would be March payment actually moves up one. So I eliminate line 2 of my amortization schedule. And the payment for March actually becomes my new number 2 payment. How about that? That's what's going on here. This is what people don't understand. This is what they're fighting against. And I'm going to give you some reasons why they're fighting against it in just a minute. All right. So now here's my new payment. What does that mean? The $349.30 that I would have had to pay to get this equity. If I give it, so somebody says, where can I view the breakdown? Go to YouTube. Okay, KB, go to YouTube if you've got a calculator, another phone, maybe a tablet, maybe your computer, go to YouTube and look up P.I.L.L method and you can see the numbers. How's that? Thank you, KB, for asking. All right. Thank you for asking. So you want to see these numbers. Oh, and plus, if you like at work or something and you're driving and you can't watch it now, you can watch the replay. As soon as we're done here, the replay is up. It's ready to go. Okay. So what happened? Okay. What happened here? We're on line 3. So here's what's happening. Because we paid the $398 early, we do not have to pay the $349.30 in interest there. The overall interest cost that the bank is looking for, which is $69,740.80, the overall interest cost that they're looking for has just been reduced by a whole $349.30. That never has to be paid. So in other words, every single month you pay on time, you're getting equity, but it costs you money. So here's my question to you. If I pay this early, did I have to pay for getting this equity? Did I just get my equity for free by giving it to them early? By choosing my timing to give the bank money makes it impossible for them to charge interest. Therefore, I get my equity for free. Yes or no, ladies and gentlemen? Yes or no? This is going to be the most beneficial time you've spent in math class ever. Some people hate math, all right? But this kind of math we can love. I give the bank $399.98 early, which is going to go straight to principal, but I get to do it without giving them any interest. In fact, it makes it impossible for them to charge me interest. So what would happen if I make my mortgage payment here on January and I give them the $399.98, the $400.68 from line 3 of the amortization schedule, and the $401.38. Okay, that's a little over $1,200. I'm not saying you have to do that. I'm just saying, what if you did? This is mortgage mechanics. This is not P.I.L.L method. But to understand the P.I.L.L method, you have to understand mortgage mechanics. Okay? So we have a little over $1,200 applied to principal in January on top of my regular payment, which means I eliminate the interest payments on line 2, 3, and 4. They're gone. I never have to pay the bank that. So I got this equity for free. I got this equity for free. I got this equity for free. And my next mortgage payment for February is now line 5. So payment number 1 and payment number 5 are now touching. Payment 2, 3, and 4 are gone. Because I chose to give the bank money on my schedule, which made it impossible for them to charge me interest. Every time you pay the bank on their schedule on time, you have to pay them. Your payment is discounted by on this loan by nearly 50%. So why would we stand for that? Let's take a look at line 12 on this. And here's where it gets really interesting. Question. Okay, Carrie D, what's your question here? Don, for those of us on the cusp of buying a home, am I correct that you said getting a higher interest rate results in paying a mortgage off sooner? Exactly. Could you please explain? Thank you. Okay, Carrie. All right. That's the other thing that we're getting ready to talk about as well. Okay. Because one of the guys that were trying to drag me on this over the weekend talked about higher interest rates versus lower interest rates. And I'm saying, if you get a higher interest rate and it works working for you, do not refinance to a lower interest rate just to get the lower interest rate. Don't do it. Don't do it. You have to have other reasons to refinance. But if you're refinancing, if everything is working okay, if you're refinancing just to get the lower interest rate, don't do it. Let's take a look at the same mortgage here. Okay. All right. Hold on for a second. I got something else to look at on another screen. Okay. There we are. And we're going to bring this thing up for you guys. Okay. All right. And there we go. All right. So here is, I'm going to put this on now. If you have a brand new mortgage now, let's say it's 7%. We're going to use the same $200,000 and make it at 7%. What if you could afford this payment? Okay, if you could afford this payment, it's going to be great. But the payment is $1,330.60 as opposed to $749. Now, why is that okay? Why is that okay? Because of how amortization works. Write this down. If you're listening to me, write it down. Write it down. Control the principal payment and you control the loan. Interest payments you skip don't matter. One more time. Control the principal payment and you control the loan. Principal payments interest payments you skip don't matter. So here is my new payment amount. Look at this. Well, Don, look at that. I got only $163.93 going to principal now, but look at that huge interest payment. $1,100. And you're talking about saving interest. Look at that interest payment they want me to make. So how many of you have a credit card right now and know how credit cards work? How many of you have credit cards right now? Okay. And what if the credit card interest rate is 10%. And you charge $1,000 on that, but you pay it off before the bill is due. How much interest did you pay? The answer is none, right? So if it's 10% and you paid it before the bill is due, does it matter if it's a 20% card then? Okay, hold on for a second. There's an emergency call. Hold on. Hello.
Hey, do you eat corn on your new eating plan?
Yeah, but I'm in the middle of a show.
Okay, bye.
Okay. All right, folks. That was my wife. You know, I have to, even in the middle of a show, I have to take her call. So I hope you all understand. Some of you know what I'm talking about. Okay. So here's what we're talking about, folks. Let's take a look at this other. Let me take a look at this other loan. By lowering the interest rate, this is what it does to the principal payment. Look at these principal payments: $399, $399, $400. If you make a mortgage payment here, how much money do I have to come up with to eliminate one whole line of principal and interest? I have to come up with $399 on line 2 to eliminate this interest, don't I? So if I have a credit card, okay, that is 10, 20, 30, I've never even seen a 50% credit card, but even if it's a 50% credit card, if I charge $1,000 on it and pay it off before it's due, do I pay them any interest, even at 50%? The answer is no. So interest payments I skip don't matter. I need you all to keep that in mind. So if on this line at 2%, look, I have to come up with $4,837.74 if I want to eliminate 1 year. So let me ask it this way. If I know how much principal I'm supposed to pay in 1 year on this 2.1% card, on this 2.1% mortgage, do I have to pay the $4837.74? Do I have to pay it in 12 monthly installments? Or if I have this money, could I pay it immediately on line 1, be paid down to line 12 on my amortization schedule, and skip all the interest between line 2 and line 12? The answer is yes. I can skip all of that interest between line 2 and line 12. That's a $3,811 savings. I saved $3,811 in interest to give them this money on line 1 instead of trying to give it to them over 12 months. I'm paid down to where I owe $195,162.26 immediately, and saves me $3,000. So can anybody justify paying the bank in 12 monthly installments and giving them an extra $3,800 that I don't have to give them if I have the ability to save interest like this? I don't know why people argue for that. I really don't. So let's go to the other mortgage at the higher interest rate. Look at my payments now. So if I make a mortgage payment here, all I have to do now is come up with $164 to eliminate line 1. What? I mean, line 2. 165 to eliminate this one. 166 to eliminate this one. So my principal payments that I'm working with are smaller, but they're more impactful if I am prepaying to eliminate interest and mortgage payments I don't need to make. Okay. So remember when I said that $4,800 prepaid at 2.1% does this on a $200,000 mortgage, but only I only need $2,000 to eliminate 1 year on this mortgage because it's at 7%. Now, I know that goes against everything that we've been told. Okay. And this is what's called cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance. And we're going to look up that term now. Cognitive dissonance. Okay. This is why people argue against this, because it kind of looks right, but I'm going to stick with what I know, all right? Because that is just too much for me to grasp right now. That's called cognitive dissonance. Let's put that on the screen. Cognitive dissonance means this: is a psychological state of discomfort or distress experienced when a person holds two or more conflicting beliefs, values, or attitudes, or when their actions contradict their beliefs. This discomfort motivates individuals to reduce the dissonance by changing their thoughts, beliefs, or behaviors to align with each other. In other words, when I show somebody these numbers like this, that $2,000 on the same mortgage amount at a higher interest rate can eliminate 1 year, they have to try to justify what they've always been told, that the lower interest rates are better, but this higher interest rate is actually getting rid of more payments for me faster. That causes cognitive dissonance. And for some people, it's quite painful emotionally. And all I have to do to reduce the pain is to change my thought pattern. For some people, that is taking on the new information and adopting it. But for a great many of us, to reduce the pain, we forget about the new information and go back to the old information, paying the bank more money than they need right now. And they know that. They depend on cognitive dissonance, keeping you right where you are, thinking the old way. That's why we need to move out of it. There's more information out there. Okay, there's more information out there. Do I have any other? So it says, to avoid mistakes in buying a home, are you confirming that a first-time home buyer would be better off at the higher interest rate? Here's what I'm saying. There's more to this than what I'm actually teaching here. You want the right interest rate for you. Not necessarily the lowest interest rate, not necessarily the highest interest rate, but there's an interest rate that works great for you and your ability to pay your mortgage and how much discretionary income you will have. We can help you to determine that. I have helped people who have qualified for a lower rate, but they've asked for a higher rate instead because it worked for their situation better. Each person is an individual. Their finances are individual. There's nothing that I say here. I mean, zero. There's nothing that I say here that works for everybody the same way. The math is there, but we must put together a program for the individual. So your situation using the P.I.L.L method may be exactly different from your neighbors, and you have the same mortgage, you're working at the same job, but maybe your expenses are different. Therefore, you need different plans. Does that make sense? The idea of a Dave Ramsey or Susie Orman or anybody else on Clubhouse or anyone else saying everybody do the same thing, that's not good. That doesn't make good sense, does it? You need a plan that's going to work for you individually. Okay? So, if you're getting a mortgage, okay, I got somebody on online asking a question here. Let me get back there. So can this be applied to bankruptcy payments to pay off? No, it cannot. It cannot. But there are some things that you can do to get to close out that bankruptcy even faster. Let me know how we can do this. Get with me and we'll talk about that. Okay? Get with me and we'll talk about how all of that works. I'm talking about debt that carries interest and how we can eliminate interest. That's what we're talking about today. All right? So Karen Stacy Moore, thank you very much for your question here. But get a hold of me, and I think this would be a good time to go about that. I need you all to watch this, and then we'll get to how we can find out how each and every one of you can get what's called a savings report, and you can know the month, day, and year you could be debt-free and get this valuable education. And here's what you don't want to do. Stop going to friends and family and having them to try to validate your next financial decision, especially when it comes to this. And I am not being boastful when I say this. They can't get, if you're trying to go to others to validate this, don't do that, because I own the copyright to this. The only place that this is being taught is right here. So they can't possibly help you with information they don't have. And let me give you an example of this, and that I think is a very good example. Some of you know what a toaster oven is. Most of you know what a toaster oven is. And all of you know what a microwave oven is. So what if you come from a country that only has ever heard of toaster ovens? Only heard of toaster ovens. Now try to explain, without showing them, try to explain how a microwave oven actually works. Can you do it? Because they have in their mind, if you say, I can put a plastic bowl of water in my microwave oven and I can heat that water to boiling. If somebody says, I've only ever seen a toaster oven, what will they say about you? They say the bowl will melt. You cannot put a plastic bowl of water in any oven and then heat the water to boiling because the bowl will melt. That's their thinking. That's their orientation. So please don't take pill method information to people who have not been instructed by a pill method interest cancellation expert. This is only taught here. So that's what you need to understand. So you're not going to get validated by family and friends on this information because it doesn't exist anywhere else. You need to make up your mind. So let's get together. Let's talk about it. Talk to somebody who is from my company, and they can help guide you and answer your questions so that you can know what's really going on. Okay? So I had one more thought here. All right. And all right, I will call you. So I'm going to put some information on here so that you can get a savings and earnings report and know how to get a hold of us. So let's let me pull this up, and we're going to watch this right now. How many want to know how to pay off all of your debt in an average of 7 to 9 years? You can do all of this without refinancing, without change to your budget, without sacrificing lifestyle.
Me and my husband do the P.I.L.L method, and last year we were able to pay down $33,000 on our mortgage without feeling like we were poor. We still did tons of entertaining things and enjoyed our family.
You don't have to eat beans and rice every day. You don't have to cut up your credit cards. You don't have to drive a 30-year-old car. You don't have to sell pizzas at night to pay off your mortgage. All you need to do is pay the bank less interest. That's what we're talking about today. Here is what P.I.L.L method stands for: prepayment of principal, isolation of principal amounts, leverage, and liquidity. You understand it? You have a way of getting out of debt more efficiently. The interest rate you're quoted is not the interest rate you pay. You think you're buying a $500,000 home. The true cost of that home is what? $758,000. Total interest paid as a percentage of principal, 51.777%. That's what's going on with this loan. The ability to read and defeat an amortization schedule is not taught at any level of financial education. I need you to understand the power of a penny. You will not hear what I'm talking about from Dave Ramsey. Do you know why? Because I own the copyright. I literally wrote the book.
But Don has some valuable information that can contribute to the quality of a person's life. And it only costs you a few dollars. It's his book. Why not get that?
I'm going to go through the P.I.L.L method myself with some of my investment properties. So I'm going to link up with Don, and then I'm going to sit down with him, show him my investment portfolio, and see how I can eliminate interest.
All right, folks, we're back. So here's what you need to do. You need to go to ice10k.com, ice, the number 10, the letter k.com, ice10k.com, and get your savings and earnings report. The first picture you see there is E.T., the hip hop preacher who used the P.I.L.L method to get out of debt faster. Scroll down underneath this picture and click that button that says get a savings and earnings report. Now, I need everybody to know this, okay? Two things which are very, very important. There is absolutely no risk to you here, and I'm going to make that clear. Number one, everybody gets explained. This is explained to them before they ever decide to do business with us. There are no secrets. There are no gotchas after you become a client. You can know everything up front once you sit down with us. Number two, we guarantee your results in writing for life. You can't beat that. If you pay off your first mortgage in 7 years and you put your second mortgage in free of charge, okay? We have to guarantee that one too, that it works out right. And the third one, and the fourth one, and the fifth one. The program must work the program must work for you, and it cannot stop working. If it ever starts working in a way that you're paying more interest than we say you should, and you're following the program, you get your money back, even if you've paid off 10 mortgages already and the program blows up after on the 11th mortgage, you get all of your money back. It's in writing. Nobody that you've ever talked to on the net or on Clubhouse guarantees your results. That's number one. Okay. The other thing that you need to understand is the education you're going to get. It's not just giving you a program. This is a whole new mindset, a whole new education you're going to receive. So coaching comes along with it. You need to understand how your money works. You need to understand what banking didn't want you to know in the first place so that you can get out of the old way of thinking and get into the new way. Everything that you've ever been told about banking, everything that you've ever been told about how loans work, forget about it. Every good thing that you've ever learned, forget about it. You have to learn something new to save money. And we're here to teach you. Okay? So let me see here. All right. So, folks, let me see here. Hold on for just a second. I just got a message. And let me see here. Calendar. All right, because I started late. Okay, hold on. I got to send a message. All right. So let me go over some other things here. Okay. Let me go over some other things. And first of all, let me do this. Let's get out of here. Get your savings and earnings report right away. Okay. Get that right away. And then when you fill this part out, then you put in your financial information on the second page. Then we can go over all of your information. All right. If you already have a mortgage, that's fine. If you're getting a brand new mortgage, that's fine. If you have all the other debt we need to add into it, even that's fine. All right. We're going to show you how to save money. Here is the last thing we're going to do, and I've got to do part 2 on this a little bit later. All right. So let's do the last bit of information here for today. The last bit of information for today is going to be on this. Okay. Copy. And unless you're an economist, you probably never heard of this either. So we're going to paste that in there. It's called WYSIATI. Some people call it WYSIATI, but it stands for something. It's called the WYSIATI bias. And this is where most people are that push back against this program and this information. And what I don't want you to do is fall victim to the WYSIATI bias. And here's what it means. The WYSIATI bias, which means what you see is all there is. Now, let me tell you, folks, there are a lot of people who are very excitable, very exuberant in their defending their point of view, but their point of view is based on what they already know. They don't know what they don't know. Listen to this. The WYSIATI bias, which stands for what you see is all there is a cognitive bias where individuals tend to make judgments and decisions based solely on the information already available to them, while ignoring or underestimating information that isn't immediately present. That's what happened this weekend. These people were defending their point of view, trying to drag the pill method, but they were doing it based on what they already knew. And they were underestimating information that wasn't immediately present to them, the information that we provide. So, folks, don't let anybody talk you out of this. Look and do your own research. Find out what's really going on behind the scenes. I wish I could spend more time with you, but because of internet problems, we have to cut this short today. I've been on an hour and 39 minutes. So I've got other appointments, but I'm going to do part 2 on this next week. We're going to recount some of it, but I'm going to do part 2 next Wednesday. You need to be here. All right, please, let's finish this up. I'm going to use the same thumbnail and everything. All right. And here is what we're going to be talking about next week. I'm going to put it back on the screen. Okay. There we are. Okay. They ridiculed me for this, but AI shut them up. There's a reason why people fight so hard against this. And we're going to get into more reasons for this next week. We're going to go over the status quo bias. We're going to go over the Dunning-Kruger effect. We're going to go over a lot more information as to why people get stuck in the information that they already have. And it's just so hard for them to adopt new information. But please get your savings and earnings report, get a consultation, start learning how you can pay 75% less interest and learn how to pay off all of your debt in an average of 7 to 9 years. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for being here today. Thank you for letting me get this off my chest, but I'm not done. Not nearly done. We have more to learn. We've got more to teach. We have more. This is for us here at P.I.L.L Method. We have a mission because we believe you deserve to know why banking isn't teaching you this, and all of the things that they're teaching you, all the things that are being promoted to that saves you money actually costs you more money. And we're going to get more into that next week and the psychology as to why it's so difficult to change. All right, folks, I'm out of here. We will see you next week.